4.8. Capital letters are going to be our angles. The small letters across from them are going to be our sides. So if you're given pieces of a triangle, you will be asked to find all pieces of a triangle. So when it says solve the right triangle, I want to see all pieces, whether they're given to you or not. So if they're given to you, easy, fill them in. In this case, side A is 25, side C is 35, angle C is 90 degrees. Then you can use Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side. And if you do that, you would have got 10 root 6, I believe. Then you can use your laws of sines and cosines to find them. So if I want B, let's say here, I would do cosine of my B is 25 over 35. So in my calculator, I'm going to do cosine inverse of 25 over 35, and you get 44.4. And then for A, I would do sine of A is 25 over 35, and I believe it's 45.6. Make sure your angles add up to 180 degrees. In this case, you could come out, since it's a word problem, you can come out with your decimal, and that would be all right. But when it says solve, I want to see all 6 pieces. No matter which pieces are given to you, easy, plug them in. Then you don't have to do any work. And then show the work for the ones you had to find. We've talked about elevation and depression before. What's important about that is that it always comes from the horizontal. Here we have a word problem talking about the angle of elevation of a rescue ladder. So here is my rescue ladder. It is it says the longest ladder is 110 feet. Angle of elevation, so that means with the ground, is 72 degrees. So what is the highest point that that ladder can go? So make your right triangles, set up your equations. You must show me your setup. You must show me the function you're going to use. So in this case, opposite and hypotenuse is sine. And then you must show me your work so that you can use your calculator. Make sure you're in the right mode in degrees. Otherwise you'll get the wrong answer. And if you get the wrong answer because you're in the wrong mode, you will not get any partial credit on it. So make sure you're in the right mode. Check your mode. Alright, on this one they were able to draw a picture for us. We want to find actually the height of the building as well as the height of the smokestack. So what we can do here is actually make 2 different triangles. We're going to make the first triangle with x, the 35, and the 200. So that's tangent, which means I can now find the height of the building, which is good because in order to find the height of the smokestack, I need to add the height of the building and the smokestack. In this case, we know that to be 53 and that to be 200. So tangent of 53 is the other side, so 1, because that came out to be 140, I believe. So 140 plus x over 200. So 200 tangent 53. Whatever that solution is, I'm going to subtract 140, and that's going to be my x value. Make sure that you use this parentheses correctly, because if you just put tangent 200 tangent 53 minus 140, your calculator is not going to read it appropriately. So you need to make sure that you close this off and you get a value for it before subtracting the 140, and you should find that it's 125.4 label feet because it is a word problem. On number 3, they tell you information about a swimming pool. Well, the swimming pool has parts rectangular, so we do know portions of it. We're trying to find that angle down here. So I have opposite and adjacent that I'm missing, which allows me to find tangent. Opposite over adjacent. Make sure I'm using my inverse appropriately. And hopefully you're in the right mode. You would come up with the 7.7 degrees. When it comes to bearings, you need to make sure you're reading them correctly. Whenever we come from bearings, we're always coming from the north and the south, and then we go east and we go west. So we need to make sure that we are reading our information correctly. This is actually south east, or south 35 degrees east. This is going to be north 80 degrees west, north 45 degrees east. All of it is off of an origin, so you must have an origin. You always read your north-south first, the degree, and then whether you go west or east. Alright, so here we have a ship leaves port A. Here we are leaving A. Here's, we're going to call this it's kind of an axis there. At noon, and heads due west, so it's heading due west here, at 20 knots per hour. So at 2 p.m., so it means it went 2 hours, it's at 40 knots per hour, hence the 40 down here. So at 2 p.m., it changes course. I'm going to put an axis here, because it's going to change course. The course is north 54 west. That means here's north, here's my origin, because that's where the boat changed place, so that's my origin. North 54 west. That's my 54 inside. Now, by definition of complementary angles, I can go 90 minus 54 and get that that's 36 degrees. Find the ship's bearing and distance from the port. So here's my port, and here comes the boat coming back. So I'm looking for this angle, ultimately. So we need to come up with our information. I need to extend out and make a triangle. So this is my triangle up here. B, D. I know this to be 36 and that to be 20. Because it said it only went 1 hour, so at 20 knots, that's how I know that it's only 20. There we go. So I can find B by doing sine of 36 is opposite over hypotenuse. Do that calculation and I can find B to be 11.76. I can do D to be cosine of 36 is D over 20, and do the calculations, I get 11.8. Alright. now I need to find that angle as well as my total distance. I can find my total distance because this is 40 and 11.8, so 51.8, 11.76. Pythagorean theorem will give me my total distance if I wanted to find it. Oh, yep, I do. I need to find it. Distance 57.4. Then I need to find my bearings. Now, your question may be, why am I not finding alpha? I have to find alpha in order to find my bearing, but the reason alpha is not a bearing is because a bearing is always off of north and south. And notice the bearing, this is not a bearing because it does not come off of a north or south. It comes off of the west. So that doesn't work for us. I need to find alpha, and I can do that in many ways. I can use tangent, 11.76 over 51.8, so alpha is 11.8 degrees. Therefore, my theta is 90 minus 11.8, so 78.2. Put it in the proper bearing directions. North, 78.2 degrees west. And then 57.4 miles. So a lot of moving parts to it, but nothing of it is too complicated. You need to know you have to work from right triangles, so you need to make right triangles, get right triangles, and complete them. And then the extra part is knowing the definition is off of a north or south component. All right, harmonic motion is vibrations, and you'll see this in a spring notation here. This is just called simple harmonic motion. It uses our sine and cosine. Instead of a W, you could use B. It means the same thing. It's the same thing that we did previously back in 4.5. Amplitude is still the same. How high and low does it go? And it's always positive. The period is 2 pi divided by the B. Frequency, that one is new. B divided by 2 pi. So that's the only kind of new thing that you have here. So let's apply it to an example. Write the equation for the simple harmonic motion, and then what is the frequency. So if I know D is 0, when T is 0, I have to find B, or my period. Period is 2 pi divided by B, which is 4. So 2 pi is 4B. So B is 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. Okay. Keep in mind, this is going back to the problem that was here on time to complete one period was 4 seconds. So period is 4. That's how I found my B. So Y equals amplitude. There's my amplitude. 10. Sine, because that's the equation it told me to write. I found my B to be pi over 2. and then x, or t, whichever, it doesn't matter. There's your equation. Alright, here I have the displacement is 6 cosine 3 pi 4 over t. So what's the maximum displacement? 6, because that's A. Alright. B, what's the frequency? B over 2 pi is the definition of frequency from the last page. I know what my B is. It's 3 pi over 4. So that's 3 pi over 4 times 1 over 2 pi, which is 3/8. C, what's the value of D? So that means I'm going to find D when T is 4. So that's just a mathematical simplification here. 6 cosine of 3 pi. Well, cosine of 3 pi, that's the x value at 180, which is -1, which is -6. Alright, and then letter D, the least positive value of t for which D is 0. So what that means is if D is 0, 6 cosine 3 pi over 4, it's saying I can now get rid of the 6. I can divide by it. So I still have 0 cosine 3 pi over 4. The question is, cosine is 0 at pi over 2. Therefore, 3 pi over 4x must equal pi over 2. I'm just doing a substitution. 0, in order for cosine to be 0, it has to be pi over 2. Therefore, I could substitute pi over 2 in there and now solve for t or x or whatever letter I have there. Multiply by the reciprocal of 4 over 3 pi, we get x is 2/3. You will 100% guarantee see this type of a question again. The question that is really asking you is, do you understand that cosine 0 is pi over 2? Therefore, I can make that substitution and solve. That's the main purpose of that question, and that is something you need to be able to answer. So there's 4.8.